Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this day, which provides us with another opportunity to glorify you in everything that we do. May we take full advantage of that opportunity. We thank you so much for Andy and Cameron joining our board. Pray that you watch over us as a board, as a team, as a district, as we seek what is best for our students and everyone involved. We love you. It's in your Son's precious name we pray. Amen. Amen.
Well, welcome everybody. We're cozy for the first time in a while. And if I was to say somebody didn't take a shower, speculate, probably move on. Welcome. It's good to see everybody. I know they got their thermostats turned. What is the thermostat set?
It's 7:30.
That's good. Yeah, we can use it. Well, welcome everybody. It's time for public comment on the forum. You're limited to 5 minutes. If an item is not on the agenda, we cannot discuss it. It's not a question and answer period. It's just a time for you to present your views to the board. And if further action is dictated, then we'll do that at a future date. So we welcome anybody to come. Please introduce yourself, if you would, as you step up. But anybody who wants to address the board is welcome to do so now. Don't be bashful.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Keenan. Thank you, board. My name is Clay Trumbull. Some of y'all I've had the pleasure of meeting. Some of you I've never met before. But on your desk in front of you, I passed out a handout. It's somewhere this. It's
Well, that protocol is go through Desiree and Mr. Light, so.
Yes, sir. Okay, I'm sorry. And I have handouts if anybody would like some. So it's none of this is non-public knowledge. It's from audits from the school district and other various districts. So first, what I'd like to bring to the board's attention and to everybody is I think we probably need to take a hard look at how we fund some of our programs here at Wylie. And the first thing I want to really bring up is the curriculum and staff development. Last year we spent about $95,000 on curriculum and staff development. If we look at our other districts that I compared to, which are in the packet there, on average they spend about $1 million on curriculum and staff development. And really that's kind of a lack of funding. I feel that we don't provide good enough funds for our teachers, our staff, and our board members, or really our principals and other members of the deal. You know, part of the staff development is for training. It's to help them with lesson plans and other items. You know, the 7 districts that I compared to are similar size. They all have a single high school. Lubbock Cooper, Aledo, Stephenville, which is obviously a 4A school, Denison, Cleburne, and Lucas Lovejoy. So all of those similar size schools with a single 5A district with the exception of Stephenville. So the other item I'd like to talk to is extracurricular funding. Last year we spent about $2.4 million on extracurricular, which includes band, you know, athletics and everything like that. Most of our districts, at least all of our district mates that have single high schools, on average spend about $3.1 million. So right there, we're about $600,000 to $700,000 less than what we are competing against on the fields. And so I think we need to take a hard look at how we fund our athletic program and extracurricular activities. Obviously, I know that this doesn't just include athletics, but I'd like us to take a hard look at that. You know, some of the items that you all might be unaware of is the baseball team last year, or most recent year. Some of the parents had to buy their own baseball pants. We didn't have funds for that. I have a 7th grade child. We had to buy their own football pants. We didn't have enough pants for all the 7th graders. So, and also 7th and 8th grade basketball. We're required, or parents are not required, but they don't have shorts for the boys. You use your own purple athletic shorts that have their initials on. All the schools we compete against have a nice form-fitting uniform. So that, you know, really comes from funding, and we need to look hard at increasing that funding. The next item is our school leadership. I noticed there's several principals along with administration. You know, you might be surprised of what the lack thereof of their salaries. And I don't want to get in particular of what each individual makes, a lot of it is public record. You know, Mr. Light and our superintendent is basically underpaid by $80,000. The athletic director, about $18,000. Principals, assistant principals, and assistant superintendents, on average, $35,000 when compared to their peers. Principals, $12,000, and assistant principals, $9,000. This could be part of just why it's sometimes hard to attract good quality candidates. I think who we have in our schools do a wonderful job, but certainly if we're on a better pay scale and a better, comparable with other districts, I think it'll help us attract, new, good quality candidates for those jobs. The fourth item is technology. And technology, I know, is a key thing, and certainly COVID has hurt us, or maybe shown us the light of some of that. We don't have enough Chromebooks and iPads and really laptops and computers to help service our students. In addition, I would guess that the average age of the computers here in Wylie are probably in excess of 5 years old. The industry standard is typically 3 years. If we put it in the budget, on average, you have about 400 staff members. You put it in the budget to purchase a new computer every 4 years for those people, you're looking at about $100,000. So it's not a huge item, that's a line item budget. So what that helps us do, it eliminates the technology need for folks to come out and fix things. We're always replacing a new computer every 4 years. My place of business, we do it every 3 years. So, if it's 3 or 4 years, that helps us out. It helps us, all the way around. The next item is our teachers. Our teachers do a wonderful job, and they're the backbone to make our students successful. When comparing these 7 districts along with Abilene ISD and Jim Ned, we have a shortfall of about $5,500 on average. Certainly, who we're hiring against is Jim Ned and probably AISD. We're $4,000 short. So if we look at possibly raising that minimum salary all the way from our starting teachers all the way to the top, I think it would help us retain and also, retain our better teachers and also get better teachers here in the district. If a teacher is looking to move here and they have a choice between us, Abilene, and Jim Ned, they're probably going to choose Jim Ned or Abilene just because they pay better. Just bottom line. If there's no other factors, if they have no kids or something like that. The last item is the facilities at the high school. And mainly really the athletic facilities. We're the only district, when compared to other 5 district mates, that do not have any lights with fields, with the exception of our main football field. Every other district or every other school we compete with all has lights, including baseball, softball, and tennis. I'm not sure why that's never been brought to anybody's attention. And most 4As and 5As in the state of Texas have lights at all of these major facilities. In addition, we don't have another lighted field for other practices. And what I mean by that is most of these other schools have a full-length turf field or possibly grass for football. And this is for your JV, your sub-varsity, obviously, your freshmen. For both soccer, band can also practice on the lights, and just would make everything better for all of our students. I certainly know my time is limited. And the last thing is probably we need to look at replacing the turf at both the baseball and softball complex. I know that's about 8 or 9 years old, and so something maybe in the budget process over the next year or two would replace both of those. I have outlined, what each of the items would cost, and it's roughly $2 million in next year's budget, 2021, 2022. And I did visit with the tax office today, and based on the proposed taxes that will be levied next year for our homeowners and businesses, this would be covered with that increase. For almost all of this funding would be covered with us not raising taxes. And so that's the good news. Obviously, all of our taxes will probably go up because of increased values. But as far as increasing the tax rate, that would not have to be done by the board or the administration. And so that's all I have. I know it's probably been about 5 minutes, and I certainly don't want to take over my allotted time. But I'd be happy to answer any questions if
We
anybody has.
appreciate your time.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Clay.
Anyone else? Going once? All right. Well, let's move on. We've got to administer some oath. Let's start with Mr. Wylie.
Yes, sir. That's you.
Gentlemen?
No, go around. Yeah.
You know what I can use? Yeah, what else? I state your name.
Must be bad if I said I state your name.
I'm gonna try not to mess this up, okay? All right. There is one. Yes, I thought you did, yes, please. I, Andy Stanton, Cameron Wylie,
I, Cameron Wylie,
do solemnly swear and affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will faithfully execute the duties
that I will faithfully execute the duties
of the office of Place 6 or Place 7
of the office of Place 7
of the state of Texas,
of the state of Texas,
and will to the best of my ability
and will to the best of my ability
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution and laws of the United States and of this state.
the Constitution and laws of the United States and the state of this.
So help me God.
So
Want a picture? Come on up. I'd love to have it. Come on. We have somebody can do that? Yeah. Our camera guy right here.
Camera got it.
Why don't we kind of turn it where you got the bulldog
Y'all have a
behind you?
stool for me?
That doesn't help us, Wylie.
We need a stool. You really want a stool?
No, I'm. She needs one.
She has jokes. Perfect.
Hey.
She's the boss at home, so. Oh, at home? Mom-based commander is on it.
Charlie's got it.
I'll use yours. Here.
I have Andy's number.
You got it, okay. Yeah, I wanna get, yeah, move over.
Let's go to the top. What do you do? Scoot that over.
Yeah, just-
Right. Perfect. I'll edit it.
You trying to say I'm white here?
That's, no.
Congratulations.
And I think we're supposed to get one picture of each of them for the website.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe
I'm gonna go between there.
move to that side.
This one, okay.
Send them somebody else. Get somebody else.
Go inside.
I'll edit it. Do I need a font?
Well, Randy, why don't you, what do you want?
Okay.
Here, I'll edit that. Where's Jack? Come on now.
On vacation.
You okay?
Yeah.
That it?
Oh,
you, no, we don't need it.
For a while.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it, Mr. Amonette.
Yes, sir.
So,
Mr. Hager?
time we reorganize the board, so, Mr. Keenum, you are out for a moment.
Who has my glasses?
Here. Oh,
Okay, at this time, we're going to open the floor for nomination for school board president.
I nominate Mr. Steve Keenan for school board president.
Nomination.
Second.
Do we have a second?
Second. Second? I know, I'm just kidding.
Do we have a motion to cease nomination?
I move to cease nomination.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? It's unanimous.
I really wanted to say
Mr. King, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Good job, Mr. Hager.
Good job.
Thank you, guys.
Send me all that.
You what?
Thank you. We now open the floor for nominations for board vice president.
I nominate Miller.
Good. a second?
You don't have to, it's fine.
Any other nominations?
I nominate Chris McCarley.
Would you guys arm wrestle?
Two,
I know, I'm not one of the
there was two nominations, there was not any second on either one.
Okay.
I'm a buyout, it's not a big deal.
There's not a second on
First-year board members are ineligible.
Oh, okay.
it. No,
So-
being in office, for sure.
For an office, for
Yeah,
one
no.
of the 3 office positions. So you 3 are not eligible. So-
Two.
Well, he's in his first year still as well, because he wasn't sworn in until December. So
Mm.
technically, he's not eligible either.
You got two motions on the floor.
Well, they've got to have a second, so they're both going to die without a second.
Okay. So anybody can second. Anybody can make a motion, anybody can second. So there's still plenty of folks out there that can second somebody or, who made it? Okay.
Can I just say, no, this is,
I guess you can.
Yes,
I'll talk about it.
But there's still not a
Somebody
second.
still has to second.
There's a motion on,
Chris, I'll second Chris. If you don't have, I'll second
Yeah.
Chris. Okay.
all right, so now we have a motion on the floor made by Mike, seconded by Brad. Okay, do we have any other nominations? Would somebody like to close the
I move
nomination?
the nomination cease.
Okay, we have a second there?
second.
Cameron seconded that motion. So all those in favor of Mr. Curley, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You can't say no.
We can't travel together now.
Motion passes unanimously. All right, I'll open the floor for nominations for board secretary.
Make a motion for Mike Autry as board secretary.
Will we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a second. Any other nominations? Move the nomination cease. Someone?
I'll move.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All right. All those in favor of Mr. Autry, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Congratulations and thank you, gentlemen, for your service. Thank all of you for your service. All right. I'm assuming everybody's had an opportunity to look at the minutes. We'll approve those as presented without objection. And moving on to the consent agenda.
The bills listed for board approval are on page 8 of the packet. Going to highlight on page 8, Black Rock Construction is the contractor for the water line at the East Intermediate. Their first application was $433,864. And feel free to ask any questions as we go through these pages. Page 9 has got our payroll for the month of May, $2.6 million.
What's Mascot Media?
Mascot Media is the new app service that we have for, it'll be communicating all of the athletic information. Miss Powell is working with Coach Martin on that.
Okay.
Page 10 has got the bill that we pay to Sam's. We get cafeteria supplies, janitorial supplies. We get our copy paper from them. Page 11 has got Westigo Fuels, $14,294. That's 2 separate weeks of payments for that bill. And at the bottom of page 11 is the second BlackRock construction bill for the second application of the water line.
Okay, you said 14,000 for 2 weeks?
We get fuel about every 2 weeks, and so that was 2 separate weeks.
So that'd be about
month.
4 weeks, that'd be a month.
Okay.
You know, in the spring, there's a lot of fuel.
Right. In other words, I was thinking every 7 days we spend.
No.
No,
$7,000.
No.
Okay, that's over a month.
The water line, the two to Black Rock. Will we
Yes.
have any additional?
Yes, so that was the first pay app, and we actually, in this packet, we have the second pay app. The timing was such. At the end of all of this, we're gonna, if you remember, there was a upsizing of the line that the city has agreed to pay. So we're gonna pay it and then get reimbursed by the city, but it's not as substantial as what we're paying, of course.
On page 12, we pay a quarterly fee to the appraisal district. So the third quarter allocation was $71,000. Edgenuity, we paid $28,000. They have a lot of licenses for software for our digital learning.
Summer school, credit recovery, summer school at the junior high, summer school at the high school, and credit recovery class.
Page 13 has got our payment to Kibler for our construction, $596,000. And at the bottom of the page, Taylor Electric, our electric bill is $54,000. On page 14, you'll see the invoice to Train for $89,000. That's replacing the repairs on the high school chiller that was damaged during the snowstorm.
Will we collect insurance on?
Go ahead.
So that's going back to all of that snow repair. We've talked about that a lot, but we're just now getting a bill for it. And so our deductible is $50,000. We've already received the insurance check for $39,000.
Page 15 has got the supplemental bills that were added. Housley Communications, there's a $90,000 bill. That's the gas line for the East Intermediate construction.
If y'all will remember, we had to do just like we did for the other campuses. We're paying $100,000, but there's 10% in retainage. So we got the $90,000 bill for that now.
And Ideal Impact is $37,000. That's our contract for our energy management fee.
And that's 80% of our savings is our bill. So we save 20% is what we've saved by using them now. At the end of the day, when they leave us, we should realize all of that as soon as we pay that last payment for them. So,
How long have we been using them?
so has it been 4 quarters we paid?
Yes.
So we paid 4 quarters. We're ahead of where they projected us to be. So that was a set amount that was going to be, that charge. And they did tell us from the get-go that it just depends how well we implement that, how quickly that will pay off. We're ahead of the pace,
We're ahead in a good way.
in a positive way, that's right.
Okay, so you're happy with the.
They, incredible, to be honest with you. You know, as we continue, I can tell you, before we started adding campuses, we were paying $50,000 and $60,000 a month to pay our electric. And, I mean, it's like we've added some campuses and hadn't seen the increase in costs. So it's pretty good.
Glad to hear.
If there aren't any other
questions on the?
questions on the bills, I'll go on to the cash, page 16. So the balance in all the bank accounts at the end of May, $15,546,000. Compared to a year ago, May 2020 was $17,500. $17,500,000. I was going to mention down, you'll see the debt service lines, the balance of $1,103,000. On August 15th, we'll make our next bond payment, and it's over $900,000. So you see, we will have a balance in the bank after that payment. The next page has to do with the revenue report. You see where the revenue is compared to our budgets. Overall, we're at 81% of our revenue compared to 76% a year ago. And right now, our property taxes collections are at 93%, 93.89%. The next page is the expense page of the financials. We budgeted $42,609,000. We're at 82% of that at the end of May. And a lot of that is due to line 81, the construction.
And of course, that shows a large over expenditure. That was a planned expenditure, so I think we're still right on target with our construction, as you'll hear from Charlie. So.
Page 19 is the quarterly investment report. We are keeping all of our funds at the local bank, our depository bank at 0.75%. That'll change in September for our new depository contract. That's just the best we can do right now.
So it's pretty paltry what you see on the investment report. We're just not putting any money anywhere, so that
We have available to us some pools and some other funds.
I kind of want to be a softball official after seeing what they're making.
Oh, it's incredible, and it's hard to get them.
I think they're mandated UIL to get a percentage if I remember right.
And it changes a lot. I don't remember where we are right now. I look at the bills. Softball, volleyball, basketball.
Yeah. Any more questions for Carol? Mr. White, anybody?
Thank you, Carol.
Entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda so we can pay bills.
Yeah, I make a motion to pay the bills.
Second.
Did you get that, Desiree? Any more questions, discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. All right, let's move construction update up.
Charlie will be glad.
David, Charlie?
Oh Lord, didn't it rain in the month of May? We just kept it raining, we kept it plowing. And I got the 2-foot ruts to prove it. So, a lot of our trades are starting to phase out now. Our erector should finish up the building still this week. He'll move outside and he'll start on those covered walkways and drop-offs on the outside. Our bricklayer is moving real well. By the way, we brought in a new bricklayer this time from the Metroplex, J&E Masonry. They're doing an exceptional job for us. They have a lot of capacity. They're well organized. I'm real happy with their work so far. The heavy gauge metal framing on the outside is moving right along and should finish up this week or the first part of next week. By the way, I already started on the interiors. We already have the kitchen area framed up. Window frames are already installed. The roofer hit today, and then he'll start slapping down the roof. We got 40,000 square feet ready for him, so he's got plenty of room to run. So he should be able to make really good progress. All our materials are on site, so he's all set to go. As soon as we finish up the heavy gauge metal framing, we'll be able to order the corrugated metal siding too. So we're a little bit concerned about it because it's a long lead item. Grange is notorious for just taking a long time to deliver the materials on site. So they're wrapping up. Also, we're increasing our manpower. Last week, our man loads got up to 59 men, so we had almost 60 men on the job. So we're starting to roll real nicely, doing the outside and the inside at the same time. So things are looking good. Coming up next month, we'll start the EFIS work around the gym. That's a synthetic plaster they put on, similar to your other buildings. And then also the rooftop units, they're already in Baker's yard. They'll be set as soon as the roofer gets done with his work. So we'll set up, we have 36 units there, so we'll set all those at one time. So it'll just be a one-day show. So can I answer any questions for anybody?
Charlie had talked to you several times about, mentioned the rain again today, but even within his schedule, what he's been able to do is if it's raining, they can't work if it's raining on them, but as soon as it stops raining, because of the situation with the road and access, you've gotten a lot of work done, even though there was a lot of mud around the building, because you could get onto the.
Yeah, this morning was the perfect example. Of course, it started raining at 3 o'clock this morning. My crews rolled out at 7 o'clock, and then it started raining again. So a lot of them just ducked under cover, got in their cars, waited out the rain, and went right back to work today. Then, of course, the sun popped out this afternoon. So I think we're moving along real well. Those guys don't get paid if they don't work. And so it's an advantage for them too. It's not something we force on.
Yeah.
And so anyway, they got bills to pay too.
Still on target.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I got 2 weather days left in my car. That's it. So I think I've had enough rain.
Don't spend them. You're gonna need them.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Charlie.
Have you had any supply disruptions? Are you getting everything that?
You know, and we tried to plan for that in advance. For instance, we ordered all the metal framing materials, ordered that with the exterior package, so it's already on site. And then our roofing materials, I'll give you, for instance, we have isometric insulation, and my contractor got on the phone and ordered it. He was trying to project out 2 weeks for his delivery. He says, I can deliver it today, but I can't deliver it 2 weeks from now. So we hustled up, we took delivery on it. And right now, my yard is full of materials. My project management staff in Dallas has done a great job of getting all of these material approvals completed and everything, and so far we're looking real good. Like I said, my only concern is that corrugated metal on the outside. And mostly just because of that company. They specify that product, that's the product they want, and they're real proud of it. So that's about the only material that I'm concerned about. And we're pretty much out of the woods now. I mean, mostly what you gotta worry about is your rooftop units, for instance. We already have those, we've had them for a long time. Sheet metal, they're already in fabrication on that too. So I have a foreman on site now, they're fabricating that now. So no real problems right now, except for that corrugated metal.
And so you might, even in relation to that, comment again about how the approval of the second GMP helped you out in regard to that.
That was part of the reason that we were trying to press that forward, was so that we could go through that process of submittals, go through that process of ordering materials and delivering materials, so we didn't have any accidents. So the burnished block we use, for instance, I've already got that on site. It's been on site for weeks and weeks and weeks. That's a 12-week delivery item. So we have to think in advance. And, you know, I pride myself on the schedule that I keep and monitoring those sort of things, as well as the construction projects. I think we're doing real well.
That's good to hear.
Good job, Charlie.
Yeah, that's
Thank you,
big.
Charlie. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
I can't believe how much they finished in a week since I was over there. There wasn't even a ceiling a week ago. It's crazy.
They get busy. All right, well, let's look at item 4E, TASB voting delegate and alternate. Each year, we got to select a delegate and an alternate to represent us at the delegate assembly at the TASB convention. And I think everybody's eligible except for Miller wants to do this.
I was thinking Miller was like, I'm out. She's done that before.
Twice.
Yes, twice.
Is this like a rookie?
It's
thing now?
usually a rookie thing, yeah.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, though. Did you get to go in person the first time? The first time. Last year, we didn't get to
Did it
go.
online.
Yeah, did it all online, so this will be, it is, you learn a lot, I think, when you're that person. So see what school boards across the state are looking at, so.
Well, this is typically a voluntary thing.
Yes.
I'll do it if y'all trust me.
Oh, absolutely.
Trust goes up tremendously.
Well, we're not going to give you the nuclear launch codes or anything. So
I mean, I've got 79 days of vacation, so.
You do learn a lot. It's interesting.
All right.
I'll throw my name in that.
All right, I don't, it says we have to elect somebody, I guess that means we gotta have some board action, then, don't we?
I think I say by consensus of the board.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right, who wants to be the alternate
Yeah, take.
in case? All right, Brad? And anybody, you want to final for it there, Andy?
Man, I'm gonna wait and take notes.
I think you need to.
Well, I gotta take notes.
We'll we'll remember that next year.
I think you need to be.
how to get in this door, so.
So you have to sit outside the door and make sure that you get all the good stuff that you bring with you. All right, well, thank you guys for stepping up to do that. I think everybody here has done that at some form or fashion, so. And if he's right, it is a good thing. All right, we're moving on. Mr. Light, tell us about title funds. I know we're going to have open public comment time here. Just give us a little brief introduction before we open.
Yes, sir. Each year, we solicit public input on Title I fund, our title fund, not Title I, all title funds. Just so y'all have a perspective of what we generally do. Some Title I monies are spent on remedial reading programs. With that, most of it is paid for payroll. Nearly everything we get for federal programs, we use in payroll. Now, that's not to say that we don't have some staff development. Some of those will not allow you to pay payroll on it. So we'll also purchase supplies, and Mr. Hagler has some of that money available to staff development, which he coordinates for us. So, the majority of it, though, in all of our programs, is paid for employees. Now, I will say this, part of the reason, that's been a long tradition that we've had, is because these folks want you to be accountable. If it's in payroll, you're very accountable. It's easy to show where you spent your money. You don't have a bunch of supplies that you've got to document and give a reason for all that. So that's what we've used our title monies for.
Okay, we'll open the floor for the board, for audience comment. If anyone would like to share an opinion about how to use title funds. Seeing no one, we're gonna talk about ESSER funds, Mr. Lyon, ESSER 3 funds.
Yes, sir, that next line is talking about ESSER money. So let me talk about ESSER in general. You know, the COVID relief funds have been very interesting in how they've been put in legislation and been released. There was an ESSER, the original ESSER, we now call ESSER 1, was released fairly early in the process. It was about $200,000.
Yeah, $200,000.
About $200,000. We were allowed to use that on utilities to keep, at that time, keep the doors open. That was the thought process. That's federal money, so it was going across the whole country like that. So that was ESSER 1. Then ESSER 2 was approved, so just so you can put a little timeline on it, that was still when President Trump was in office, and that was that is about $900,000.
Yes.
And it again, you can use it. They have a lot of areas that you can use it in, but in ESSER 2 money, they were very slow to release it. They just released it, as a matter of fact, ESSER 2.
Last week.
2 weeks, yeah.
2 weeks ago. ESSER 3 money is the only one that they ask for public input about. That's why you see public input on ESSER 3 money. ESSER 3 money was in, has been under President Biden's administration. That was the big one. So we heard title, ESSER 1 was $200,000, ESSER 2 was $900,000. For us, ESSER 3 is $2 million. To put some context, the ESSER 2 is a lot larger, and it's based on 2010 census numbers. For example, and I'm not going to be exactly right on this, but I think, for example, Abilene has 40 million, and we've got 2 million. A lot of that has to do, again, with those census numbers of 2010. And so, one of the requirements is that we ask for input from all stakeholders. We sent out a message to all staff and parents, and included in that the students. We sent it out to everybody. Jackie did a blanket to everybody for asking for input. From that, we received 4 comments that were really questions more than input on how to spend it. Some questioning why we need it, why do we need COVID relief money. One just asking for what are the regulations that we've got to follow. I think there's concerns about the strings attached to this money, and then one just wanted to know the guidelines that we had to follow. So with that said, let me just kind of tell you some of the thoughts that we have been looking at. That I can't even tell you how many. There's a question and answer document that is updated almost daily. As soon as they get a new question, they update it. Fairly early on, we were talking about how do you spend $2 million. For us, $2 million is pretty easy to spend with some of the available options that we have. So one of them was for continued operation and for instruction, learning loss, those kinds of things. Well, this current school year that we just finished, let's go all the way back to the beginning of the year. If you'll remember, we didn't even know for sure whether we were going to start school. So this school year for us, even though in the spring of the previous year, we did everybody was at home. We looked at how we could most easily document and also most easily defend the expenses of funds. And for us, the way to do that is, again, payroll. And we looked at the levels of staff involvement in at-home learning, and we really felt like at the high school, nearly every teacher was highly involved in delivering at-home instruction, just by the very nature of the subject matter and the in and out with COVID. I think you talk to any of the high school folks, they would say that was a major struggle for them as they delivered that. Now, what does that mean if we take that $2 million and put it towards staff salaries? Well, does that mean that you pay another $2 million to that staff? No, that's not what that means. The ESSER money allows you to take what you spend on that and put their money there and what they call supplant it. So that money is back in the general budget. And so it allows you to, you basically have supplanted that, frees up that $2 million and allows you to spend that as need be. We already spent that money and it was a qualified reason. So therefore, that's what we are recommending as movement towards that. And then that money, you basically, again, you take the strings off of that money once it goes into the general fund. The money that you had to justify was what you supplanted.
So what do you do when it goes in the general fund?
It's back to now it's your discretion.
So it could be used on technology or something like that?
It could be used on anything that you deemed appropriate. Let me give you an example, and Steve and I talked about that. You know, when we went into this phase 2 of the construction, well, and we all remember, we lost, because of timing and inflation, we lost $700,000 that we weren't planning on. So once that goes into the general fund, you can't expend that on that. I mean, it's however you want to spend it, but that helps soften that blow, that $700,000 blow. Also, if you'll remember, well, and so if we look at our construction expenditures, now I'm talking about into next year, so let's look ahead. If you'll remember, at the end of that time, I'm projecting our fund balance to be about $4 million. We are asked to have 2 months worth of operating expenses in the fund balance. So our payroll alone has been about $2.5 million. So you see how we're definitely under what they would like us to be. So it would basically be putting us back to where we probably ought to be with fund balance. So, I mean, that's something that we can, as we go through the budgeting process, those are things that you can decide. But we've already expended that money under a qualified, qualified activity. So we're just giving ourselves credit for it, and that frees up that money.
Joey, I was gonna mention that when we did start up school, we were doing a lot of extra cleaning, sanitizing, that. We bought a lot of technology at that time to help us get our online learning and stuff going that we were not reimbursed for with other things. So there were just a lot of things we used at the beginning of the school year that we had already spent and paid out. And this is a way to recoup that.
So what is our ratio now with the technology?
Well, like when we were doing that, I remember saying that, I think, Well, we added, didn't we add about 900 devices? I don't know if Brad's not here.
That's what I was reading.
900.
We added about 900 devices total.
Yep.
About 500 and 400, I think. I can't remember, I think we had 500 Chromebooks. I could be backwards on that, but that reduced that ratio significantly, because that was in addition to what we already had. I'd need to get, I want to say it was 2 point something to 1 versus, I think we were at like 4 to 1.
And there are just a lot of accessories that go with that, speakers and cameras and things like that as well. And I did mention, you know, we were replacing some of our interactive boards that the teachers do their lesson plans on. And so we're still replacing some of those this summer.
Yeah, and so really, all those things would qualify, but for ease of tracking, it's so much easier if we just pay salary and then we, you know, boom, you've got line. When you go through the payroll, you can say, okay, we paid these, we figured about, how many teachers did you say you ran through? We had more than enough teachers left over. So, again, it helps us in the documentation of spending those funds.
Any other questions for Joey before we open it up to the floor? Any idea on the timing of the release of these funds?
So that's, I said at one point about the release of ESSER 2, they held that up. They actually released ESSER 3 monies. That was part of the legislation. It was supposed to be released much earlier. So we think as soon as we finish the application, it will be delivered to us. Now that will change how things look. That money would actually, if they get it to us fairly quickly, it would actually hit the budget for this school year.
Right.
Is that?
One of the grants, they're holding back 25%, so they're only releasing 75% of the $2 million at one time, and then.
But that doesn't mean they won't release it.
Right.
I mean, it'd be a journal entry for Carol to get that. Now, when you start working with auditors, they like everything, they don't like the journal entries as much as they would like it to be definitely hit the year that we're expending it. But, I mean, it's pretty common for them to.
These are all federal programs, so they're gonna be reviewed by our local auditors, by the state education board, as well as some federal agencies will probably be coming in and looking at how these funds are being spent. It's just.
Okay.
Here's one other thing, and I didn't mention this. These funds could actually be expended through 2024. But again, my thought is, it's hard for me to justify saying we're spending on COVID, and now you could say learning loss, yes, I agree with that. But actual COVID expenditures, we were impacted in COVID this school year we just finished, so it makes sense that if we're gonna do that, it would hit this year. And since it's not more than we can expend, I think some folks probably have more than they can expend in one budget year. But that's another reason for targeting this current school year that we finished.
All right, we're gonna open it to the floor. Anyone have a comment about the possible use?
As we learn more, if anything changes on any of that, we'll let you know, but that's.
Well, next month, if talking about
That's right.
because we could talk about what our current expenses are, and that might go into it.
That was actually one of the things I had in that long budget workshop meeting. I had a later slide called the gorilla in the room, ESSER 3, because that is the gorilla in the room, because so much money is going to hit probably this current budget year.
Well, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. All right, well, thank you, everybody. All right, consider resolution regarding ESER 3 and policy CB local for state and federal revenue sources. Mr. Wylie.
I'm gonna ask Mr. Vaughn to speak to us real quickly on that. He works with our policies, and so he's the man. Mr. Vaughn?
All right, TASB has recommended that we update our language in policy CB to better align with the federal requirements that ESER 3 has placed on us. So TASB gave us this language. Notice it took 4 whereases and a therefore to add 2 bullet points. So basically, the 2 bullet points are requiring a public notice, a public hearing, and that the superintendent approve all the plans, makes final approval to all the plans. Pretty much simple as that. Do y'all have any questions?
So what we're being asked to do is to approve this resolution.
That's correct.
Anybody have any questions? Thank you, Mr. Vaughn.
Thank you.
Anything else about that, Mr. Long?
If you note that talks about public input, which was a requirement for law, that's what we did tonight. And then, the required grant and award plans, again, that's gathering the input and then putting it into place.
Well, you also did that when you electronically asked for input.
That's correct.
So, okay.
I move we, adopt resolution regarding ESER 3, policy CB, local, state, and federal revenue sources.
Second.
Did you get that, Desiree? Any other questions or comments? She's really good. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Anybody abstain? Anybody want to do the hokey pokey? Well, I guess it passes. Okay. You guys need to smile a little bit. You could be sitting, you could be sitting outside. Yeah, or the air conditioner could not be working. How about that? All right, we've got to have an auditor.
Yes, sir. Each year, we're required to engage an auditor. Basically, what you have is the engagement letter with Wylie. We have been doing business with them since they took over from Davis Kynard. Have a long-standing tradition. The thing that is nice about them is we kind of know how they like their records laid out, so we get them in the order that they will look at them, save some time. Carol's built a relationship, so when they, more and more they're doing things, audits at home and online.
Well, with last year's situation, they did a lot.
Yeah, and we're, some of this, they're starting the audit earlier and earlier. We'll go through a little audit this summer, they'll start the process.
Yeah, they'll be looking at some of the salary costs, some of the federal programs that should be winding down about now, and some other things like that.
And then the major where they come out and visit will be September, usually around the 20th of September, so that could change a little bit. Cost on this one, which as we've gotten larger, you would expect the cost to go up a little bit. That's $30,250. Occasionally, they have to add an audit if the amount of a grant exceeds a threshold. That is sometimes tacked on to that, but that'll be the general cost. And if they have to do an additional audit on a, I think they call it single audit, on a certain area, they'll let us know.
How long does that normally take?
Okay, so the process, like we were saying, they're gonna do a partial audit here this summer, but then they are generally here the full week in September.
And we exchange a lot of emails back and forth through before and after they're here, so there's a lot of communication.
And generally what they do, when I say set things out, we'll set out all of our pay apps and bills and things like that, and we will find, they'll test these different areas, and they'll they'll just say, pull this bill and let's see the documentation, and they're gonna make sure we're following our processes and procedures on use of funds.
Y'all will be getting a letter regarding fraud possibilities and anything that you might know of existing.
That's always, the wording on those are always strange, but that usually happens about the week that they do that.
Yeah.
So we're basically attending a colonoscopy for the district.
Yeah.
Gotta do it. We are required to do it, so. I think they're good at it, so.
Yeah, you said that.
All right, well, the board action would be down at the bottom. Anyone would like to?
I make a motion, we approve IBA from the financial audit, the 2021 school year.
And so, that also reminds me, that is for the year we're in right now. You audit the previous year, so.
Okay, ready to make that motion?
I'll second.
Thank you, sir. Okay, anyone like to make that second? Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? All right. Thank you, Mr. White. Now we're down to some information, I think.
Yes, sir. On the summer board meetings, workshops, you have the dates for the board meetings and workshops. The workshops start at 5:30, and we'll provide a meal for those. And thank you, Desiree, for getting that tonight. If anybody has any suggestions, it's always a big challenge to come up with a meal. Desiree has tried several different places that don't do a very good job of prepping. Like, she'll show up at 4:45 and they say, "What order?" So anyway, she's got a group, but if y'all have any recommendations,
Anybody have any requests?
any requests for stuff, we'd be glad to do it. And so we have those dates there. The August 30 date, which Steve mentioned, that is a special board meeting, and that is to adopt a budget, tax rate, amend the current year's budget as well.
Anybody have any questions?
Thank you, man, for dinner.
She does.
All right, well, we've done construction. So, TASB convention in Dallas, Mr. White, the 24th to 26th of September.
Yes, sir. Just a couple of things. Be sure, we hope you can go. It isn't mandatory, but we'd love for you to go. Stay in touch with Desiree. She reminded me a couple of things today. She's really good. That Friday is the Brownwood game and it's homecoming. So that may or may not impact you, but you need to be aware of that. I will be here for homecoming, so I'll be coming in Saturday. Lodging and meals are covered. Desiree, and it's a set amount that we will get you a check for to cover your expenses. Desiree will make all reservations for your hotel. The hotel it's not really first come, first served, because we've experienced this a lot. We're gonna get you into the meeting, but they open up housing
Usually opens in June. This year it's July 20th.
July 20th. It's like they're waiting to see
I think
what's
they're waiting
happening.
to see what's happening. Yeah.
But you know, we always try to get the site that's best accommodating, but we rarely get what we like to get. And so, there's shuttle service that gets you to the convention and all that. Your spouse is invited. The conference itself or convention itself is geared just to the board members. So your spouse can do whatever they want to during the day, but it's really, can you get have any of you gotten a pass for your spouse to be able to go through? I think you can get one. I've never done that, but if your spouse wanted to go through the vendors, they could. And then, yeah, like I said, the programs are generally for board members and administrators, so not of real interest to spouses. But,
Well, it gets you, we've got, we're required continuing education,
Right.
it gets you hours.
And you, at the end of each meeting, they give you the number, and that's what you would record. And then at the end of the day, you can turn those into, they have a drop box to turn those in, or get it to Desiree, and she'll make sure that
You can now do it electronically.
Okay, it's electronic.
Aren't we
Probably on
supposed
the phone.
On an app.
Is it on an app?
Yeah. We normally have to have about 10 per year, is that correct? At least 10 hours?
That's in the, well, and they have changed the tiers
They
now,
have.
they're gonna call them topics, and, but yes, I believe 10 is for the board members that are already on the board.
Yeah.
So it's
Cameron
where to
and-
go get your hours.
Well, some of that we
And
don't
have a
do
little
here with safety,
It's fun.
with that and
Yes.
everything.
So Cameron and Andy have more because they're new board members. Matter of fact, we've got an orientation we've got to do.
I don't,
Oh, Brad, yeah, good job, Steve. Did we take you through an orientation? I would have thought we did.
Yeah.
You did the local.
well, I'm talking about as far as state required education for the board members.
We'll double check, make sure we got you covered. But, you know, some of it we may have done with online things that you had a chance to.
Did some online stuff too.
Right. And so, we'll keep you apprised of, opportunities for.
And y'all will do the safety one though.
We do, let's see, and there's one.
There's a new one that's
We did the
required.
That's
Is that not
new one that's
yeah.
required.
Well, we did the one too about the cyber.
Yeah, that's right. So,
And,
Abuse.
well, it's,
Abuse,
trafficking, the trafficking deal and all that we did. But that's not the one Miller's
No,
talking
yeah.
about. There was a new one in legislation that I haven't seen anything on yet, but
Okay.
I think we're gonna have to do that.
Okay.
Typically,
I think that was about
board
1
planning
hour.
typically counts.
Yeah, I think it was an hour of whatever the new safety protocols and like that. I think it was like an hour, so.
Right. And the board planning is, Steve said that counts towards some of your hours.
So how many are we requiring?
In the budget workshop, these count also that we just did prior, that's an hour also.
Sweet. I want to say it's 12, but I'm 12. Yeah, that's a guess. Okay? Anybody else have any questions? And please let Desiree know as soon as you can. And just remind Mr. Wyatt or somebody to make sure that they pay for those so we don't get charged.
Yeah, anytime, that's another good point. Anytime, we've had problems with the hotels in the past. And we think we've paid it, we've done everything they've asked, and then you get a bill on your credit card because you guaranteed it. Just let us know, we'll reimburse you if that happens, so not a big deal, just, it happens.
That's just a little dig.
Yeah. I noticed.
All right, legislative update, Mr. Wright.
So, you've heard several comments as we've progressed this evening about legislation. Let me just say, and y'all know this, that we had the legislature meet. They sent bills to the governor, and we are in that waiting process for some. He signed some bills. If he signs it, it goes into law. If he can veto it and it won't go into law, or he can leave it unsigned, and if he doesn't do anything to it, it also goes into law. So we're kind of in that scenario right now where we're in a waiting game for a lot of the legislation. Did we usually say that in our when we open church? Please turn off all electronic devices. One of the things that happens, so the 20th day after the legislative session is when the governor has to do something, or it goes into law. After that, then TEA takes the legislation and says, okay, this is what that legislation said, and here's how you local school districts should implement it, and these are rules and regs that you have in regard to that. So we don't know exactly when we will get those rules and regulations, even though we may have some legislation that does go into law. What we've seen occasionally is something will go into effect September 1, but we don't have the rules and regulations on it, so we don't know how we're supposed to implement it. We will implement things in a timely, as quickly as we can, and generally speaking, if they don't have the rules and regs, they understand you're not gonna have it ready by September 1. With that said, there's one item that I thought in particular, there's a lot of legislation that I could go through. If you have any question on any piece in particular, if you've got the bill number, I can find it and talk to it for a little bit. But the one that is gonna come into effect, and it's really, I got a phone call today, it's already needs some addressing, is the UIL allowing homeschool students to participate. We don't know, I don't believe it's been signed yet. There is no inclination that he's not going to allow it to become law. With that said, we don't know exactly all the rules that are going to be in place. There's a lot of questions we have about how to implement. But here's already a practical question. A young man that was called today, or his dad, asked about cross country. And cross country athletes are already working out if they're going to school next year. Well, he's never been in our school, and he would be able to participate with this new legislation as far as strength and conditioning. But we don't know exactly where we are. The person I talked to understands all this, so it's not like it's a confrontational situation, but that's really one of what I'm gonna guess is quite a few. Now, what is quite a few? 10, 15, 20, I don't know the answer to that. But we need to start, we kind of have to be ready for that when it goes into effect. So the 20th is coming up. We'll know more whether it's law or not. Here's the kicker. There is an allowance there, but it is going to be a local district's decision whether or not you allow them to do that. I thought that y'all would want to have some knowledge, not that we need to make a decision tonight, but just have some knowledge about where Coach Martin, as the athletic director, feels like he stands on this. And so I've had many discussions because it's been moving through legislation for a while. And basically, he is concerned that if we do not allow them to participate, we are putting our coaches at a disadvantage against folks we will be participating against. And that's basically how he feels. So he feels like we should allow them to participate. Now, that's on a surface level. We don't have all the answers. We don't really know all the questions. We know some of the concerns, but we don't know what all the rules and regulations are. So that's just something you're going to be able to talk to folks that you know. You're going to have some opinion on that already. But more than anything else, just know that we're going to know fairly soon if that law goes into effect, and that we probably need to make a decision on that policy very quickly, probably at the July board meeting, to allow whatever processes need to take place. You know, band's UIL activity. We start band really early. Tennis, volleyball, football. Did I miss something? Because I said cross country.
All the first week of August.
Yeah. I mean, it would be before the August board meeting. So we
say volleyball?
I did say volleyball.
We're all about volleyball.
Yeah. Everything but, I think that'll be the exception to the rule. Everything but.
Yeah, no, that's not in my house.
Yeah.
Any other legislative things?
Well, there are quite a few, but that is the one that I felt like we needed to get on the table now. I do have a lot highlighted that I can go into, but I don't think at this point.
Well, if you guys are okay with it, ask him, Mr. White, if you have a question about something specific, email him, and then a board letter, if you could just shoot us whatever material that you think we need to review. If you guys are okay with that. All right. Summer school.
Yes, sir, I've got some folks who are in the middle of it, so Tim stood up first. Tim, tell us about summer school, and let me just say, we have not done this in the past, but this being a little unique situation this year, it's a lot different at the secondary level, so I'm gonna have everybody, including Ms. Todd at the elementary level, discuss.
In years past, our summer school has basically been just credit recovery for juniors and seniors that are in severe jeopardy of not graduating on time with their class. But with COVID and all the at-home learning that we had taking place, our failure rates were very high, a greater percentage than what we typically have in a typical year. And that is across every school that I know of that was experiencing those same type of issues. So we had a lot of kids that if we didn't do something different this summer, that scheduling was going to be an impossibility because we have so many kids taking 2 core classes, 3 core classes, and trying to get all that scheduled was going to be very difficult. Plus, trying to get all those kids caught up. Abilene ISD, their summer school is also full, so they weren't. In years past, we've had several kids that would go over to AISD and take some courses to their summer school. That was not an option for our kids this year. And so, going back about 2 or 3 months, had a meeting with the high school admin and along with counselors. And we had, at that time, we had about 25 seniors that were in serious jeopardy of not graduating. And that was very alarming. And so we divided the kids up amongst all of us, and we began making personal phone calls and emails and door knocking, whatever needed to be done to make sure that these kids were getting into the programs that they needed to be, making sure they were logging in, coming to credit recovery classes, things of that nature. And I'm happy to say that every student that was on the bubble was able to graduate. And that's been a large part because of the efforts that were put in by the teachers, the counselors, the administration staff, and the kids themselves that came through and did a lot of hard work there at the end. There was just a lot of procrastination on part of some 17, 18-year-olds. And so that was kind of the predicament that we were in. And currently, we're holding summer school from June 7th to July the 8th. It runs from 7:45 to 2:15. And we currently have 35 students attending summer school, and they're working on a combined 76 semesters of work. Our course is designed to take about 20 hours per semester. So we have 35 kids that are working. That's a little bit lower than what we'd like. We have several that, still come and take care of some of these opportunities that we're giving them. But, when they come back, we'll meet them where they are, and our counselors and admin will get with them, and we'll do everything we can to get the next group up and meet whatever challenges that they have. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job. All right, do you want us all to go?
Yeah, I mean, numbers or,
I'll just real quick, at the East Junior High, we have 6 students that are trying to take care of some math issues. We have 7th in language arts, and then we have 5 8th graders that are trying to do some credit recovery in IPC, which is actually a high school level course. And we have 2 teachers, we have a math room and a language arts room, and then the science is kind of being shared between both of them. And typically at the junior high level, summer school consists of 8th graders trying to finish up their STAR testing, because typically they have 3 shots at it. Well, this year that was not the case. And so this is all about just credit recovery. And we're hoping that, and all but one of these are 8th graders. We have 1 5th grader, 0, 6th, and 7th grade, and then the rest are 8th graders, and we want them all to go to the high school. My philosophy on that is I don't want to just pass kids along, but if the light bulb comes on next year, I would rather them be freshmen than 8th graders again. If that light bulb happens to come on. So that's where we are.
and you might just real quickly, Edgenuity.
Oh, we're using Edgenuity, which
Which you
they,
heard,
they
with
mentioned.
Bill about.
It's self-paced, it's awesome. I think the high school has a site license for the school. The junior highs, we have just a limited number of them. We're hoping that if this works out into something as great as we think it's going to, maybe we'll expand a little on our campus as well. I kind of envision it as the kid fails first 6 weeks, and instead of us waiting all the way to the summer for them to catch up on some of this stuff, we set them up on Edgenuity, and they start doing that tutoring during the school year. And then come before school, they can stay after school. We haven't really thought through all those steps yet, but that's kind of how I would envision us using Edgenuity. Instead of waiting to the end, we do it as they go along. So, thank you.
A little bit on the Edgenuity, it's a computer-based software, and it's not just reading. They actually have a teacher. They'll click on the lesson, and there'll be a lesson taught to them, and then they go through and take quizzes, tests, do different things through that. We currently have 12 students at Wylie West Junior High from 5th to 8th grade. I didn't break down the numbers, but a couple in 5th grade, I think 1 or 2 in 6th, and the majority of ours is in 8th grade, but there's a couple in 7th grade. We're using the same thing is to try to get these kids to hopefully catch them up so they can promote to the next grade level. Katie Craig actually is a new student or new teacher that I hired. Is running our program, doing a great job. She's worked with Miss Atwood. Jill Atwood is our representative for Edgenuity, and they've worked on kind of figuring out where these kids are and kind of adapting it to help them learn what they miss or need and to move forward. So it's been a really good program, and I think it's been good for our kids. We started June 7th, we'll end June 30th. So the first 3 weeks is Monday through Thursday, the last week is Monday through Wednesday, and they're coming from 8 to 12, or those 4 days a week, and then the last is 3 days.
Hey, and one really neat thing about it, it shows them how much progress they're making. So there's 100% that they have to finish, and it shows them, today they're about 1/3 of the way finished. They've had 5 of their 15 sessions, and it shows them, hey, you completed 27% of the work. Oh, you're a little bit behind, so we got to get you moving. So I think that's a really neat thing.
And from talking
a lot of feedback.
Yeah, and from talking to Ms. Craig today, I think we're all on task right now.
Yeah.
There's a little problem, but we're getting there.
Yeah.
Summer school's a big motivation challenge, and it's difficult. I gotta tell them that they did a great job getting the staff as well as the students there too. So those 3 guys are using Edgenuity. Ms. Todd, Edgenuity only goes down to that level, so Ms. Todd is doing our 4th grade and below at Wylie West Elementary. So.
Yes, sir, 3K 4, and I believe y'all have this in your, so I'll make it short and sweet. We had 144 pre-K 4 that came. We did split up 2 teachers per grade level, and that's what we've done in the past. It's working really well. Total pre-K we have 16, and on the side of each breakdown that I gave you, you'll have what curriculum that they're using. So basically we're using Lexia, Saxon, Prodigy, ST Math, and Education Galaxy. And that's for reading and math for the older students of 3rd and 4th grade. And we've had a great turnout, and parents are very excited to have their kiddos come and continue on the learning that is needed.
So this, at the end of this, they'll be, if they successfully complete this program, they'll move to the next grade level.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions for any of them? Like was noted, this year was a unique year, and so I appreciate all the work each of them has done. This has not been easy by any stretch. We're proud of what they've done. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
I think it's time to tell everybody good evening. Good evening. Unless you want to stay around for after executive session, which will be in about 2 hours. See you on a month.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you. Friend, congrats, man.
Good, man. Appreciate it.